This is Shelby,
And this is Jess.
and welcome back to the League of Extraordinary Readers. Today, we have a guest that I'm super excited about. You probably will recognize her name. And this is one of those things where I grew up watching her father, and my whole family. I've met Elizabeth. I've taken pictures with her. My entire family was like, "Not real. Shelby didn't get to do this." So this is super exciting for me. Elizabeth Stourder Pryor is a professor of history at Smith College, where she teaches courses on race, slavery, and one on her father, comedic legend Richard Pryor. She is award-winning author of the article The Etymology of the N-Word, Resistance, Language, and the Politics of Freedom in the Antebellum North, and a 2016 monograph entitled Colored Travelers, Mobility in the Fight for Citizenship Before the Civil War. Her viral TED Talk on why it's hard to talk about the N-word has been viewed more than 2 million times. Elizabeth, how are you? Welcome to the League of Extraordinary Readers.
Yay.
Hello. Hello. I love that you love my dad. I love that you love my dad because, no, wait, because there's a generation of people who are your generation who don't really know him. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
just having that connection, I love it.
So I tell people all the time, I think a blessing and a curse is that my mom and my dad, my family in general, like they censored me. Like obviously they weren't letting me watch like porn or anything, but I feel like when it came to comedy and history and literature, they would rather have uncomfortable conversations and answer hard questions opposed to not letting me experience our greats. So I was watching your father's stand up and listening to his records when I had no business asking people, Dracula, what kind of name is that for, nigga? Like I had no business as a kid, and I thought that was the funniest thing I had ever heard. All the way up to like quoting Harlem Nights often. That was just, he was normal in my family. The same goes for Eddie Murphy. Like there are a lot of his Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor. There are a lot of their jokes that I'll say, or like their tone and their inflection that I'll use and expect people to pick up on it, and they don't. And I'm like,
Yeah.
They think you made it up.
Yeah, I'm like, my parents really was letting me watch
They let
anything.
you, and I was on the other side of that. I was like kind of censored over on this end of things. My parents weren't like they liked Richard Pryor, but they weren't letting me watch it. Or Eddie Murphy was like probably the closest I would get, or Bill Cosby, of course, before everything. But you know what I mean. Like those were the things they would let me watch, but Richard Pryor was probably like off the list, but I had to discover
they
things
weren't.
on my own. They wasn't playing that for
So
me.
like, do you know when I say Phil Flam Florin, that's a Eddie Murphy reference from when he's mimicking Bill Cosby?
No, I don't know that.
So the joke is about how, and I believe he talks about Richard Pryor leading up to that. In that particular stand-up, he talks about Richard Pryor, but he also talks about how Bill Cosby was like largely against his stand-up, right? Because of all the cussing that Eddie Murphy did. And he says that Bill Cosby said to him, "You can't get up there and say Phil Flim Flam Florin." So whenever I'm like, I want to cuss and I can't necessarily, I'll say that. And again, I expect people to like, it's
Get it? Yeah. It's a
and they
privilege, it's really dope. Like you can experience that. But also like on the other side, I've experienced other things. So like we both share that, we both share equal things,
right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But
yeah,
I think
yeah, yeah.
what's going to be enjoyable now is being able to watch you experience Richard Pryor from multiple ends, right? Because I feel like I had my own relationship with him as a comedian that I knew just as a comedian and an actor, right? After reading this book,
Yeah.
I got to see him in a totally different light that adds to what I already had. Right. So I think it's going to be interesting for you to experience him now after us talking to Elizabeth, like you having experience with the book, you talking to his daughter. It's going to
Yeah.
be that's going to be very interesting. I'm going to enjoy watching that.
You know what's interesting? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. I was going to ask, like, I'm kind of curious, Jess, like what you think. Like, are you interested in Richard Pryor after reading the book? Like, does that make you want to learn more about his comedy and etc.?
Yeah, you know what's interesting for me is I like to Google people regardless. So, and Shelby knows this. I'll go down rabbit holes on different people prior to even reading the book. And even before, obviously, we talked about interviewing you and me coming across him, I would just Google people, like just to do so. So there was things in the book that I kind of already knew just because of like obviously his incident with the fire and certain aspects of like him having multiple like side quests and whatnot. Like I researched that type of stuff just because I'm like, ooh, I'm just like just want to know. So yes, it made me want to actually listen more in terms of like his comedy a little bit more in depth and stuff like that. So definitely like it was very interesting to hear your perspective as well as like reading what I've read online while googling things and coming across things, you know, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean, I
interesting
Google
you
other
bring
websites.
up Jess is good for that. Like I'll mention something to her and she'll come back to me with all but a book report of like, this is what I found. And I do a lot of like, I'll mention things like fleeting, like something will come across my mind and I'll like connect the dots to things. I do that a lot. I'll be like, oh, this sounds very much like this, or this book and this book go well together, or this song and this thing go well together. And Jess will take that and she'll, instead of like, she won't always ask me why, she'll just go and like look it up and she'll be like, oh, this is what you're hearing, or this is what you read, or this, you think this because whatever, whatever. So she does do that a lot. But it's
Yeah.
interesting, Jess, that you bring up specifically his burns, because that's something as a kid, hearing Richard Pryor talk about that instilled in me that it was okay to talk about your troubles in a lighthearted way, to not necessarily it doesn't always have to be as depressing, right? Like you can laugh at yourself, so like when I had my open heart surgery and I remember um because I was the youngest person on the cardiac floor, and Elizabeth, they had me on all kinds of medicine that was coming through an IV. So for the first time in years, I felt phenomenal. So I was like, do we even have to do this surgery? Like, I feel great, right? And I wanted to shower and I took off my heart monitor and scared the whole floor. They thought that I had flatlined. Now I'm standing in the room, I'm peeking out the door, and everybody is sick of me. They're tired of me. And the nurse comes and she has this very hard conversation with me because she's like, listen, um, right now you feel good because you're here and we're giving you a certain amount of medicine and whatever. But she was like, when you wake up from your surgery is when the fight is going to happen. She was like, you're going to be in a lot of pain and this is going to be hard. And it's not that I wasn't taking her seriously, but I was like they're gonna have to crack my chest open. Of course I'm gonna be in pain, blah, blah, blah. And all I could think of was when your father said that the woman was gonna come and wash him. And he was like, yeah, come wash me. she kept leading up to we're gonna come, we're gonna wash you, with all these burns. And then he talks about how they finally came and it was horrible. And one of the first conversations my mother and I had when I woke up. So I remember waking up, I remember seeing my mom, I remember that whole bit. And then later that night when I was finally like awake, the nurse said to me, she was like, okay, we're gonna have to get you up. And I was like, that's not happening. Like moving
Yeah.
my legs hurt. I couldn't imagine. And all I could think of was your father. Like, this is what he meant. Like this this is I was talking all that crap to that nurse. I wasn't listening to her. She told me this is when the fight was gonna happen, and she did not lie. Like them getting me out of that bed the first time, I was doing everything to stall. I was like, can we just wait for my mom to get here? She was like, no, we're gonna get you up, you're gonna sit up in that chair. And she was like, and then later you're gonna walk. And I was like, I have no idea how you think I'm going to do any of that. But it was like all I had in it was interesting reading your perspective of being a kid whose father was in the hospital, and you had like that part of it is not something that as a kid I was thinking about hearing him joke about these things, right? Um but it's still something that stuck with me enough that I still it hits on multiple layers. Like he was being funny, but he still was instilling these lessons um
Well,
even
he's
still.
also like fully, by time most people get the story, he's like processed and, played it out, seen how it works. He's shaped it, he's framed it. This is how I want this to land. I remember watching a documentary on him. It's actually on the Comedy Store. I don't know if you've ever seen this documentary. It's really, really good. And he was in the second episode, was like the Richard Pryor episode. And Howie Mandel was talking about how he would come onto the stage, my father, and just bomb. And then he would come back and he would come back the next night and he would come back the next night and he would come back and he would just work through it, work through it, work through it. Like, and Howie said he was like, felt like he was just sitting there watching him shape, like chisel out, the sculpture as he was like sitting there, because he would literally be terrible. And then, have this like, brilliance at the end of it, which is I also like speaks about this kind of creative work ethic that he had. But for me, I was on the other side, right? Like, I was on the side of like experiencing the actual things that hadn't been shaped yet. And that's what I knew until I started working on this project and writing this book. I don't think I fully like, even if I saw the things, I saw them when I was like, 11 or 14 or something like that. Hadn't really sat with them and made sense of his work in the way that it seems like you did in your family. Yeah.
But I think that's interesting. I think we don't I've been grappling with like how we connect with our parents, right? Like having my dad recently having passed, right? Like it's helping me see, for whatever reason, him passing, he's like no longer, I don't have the responsibility on him to be my father, right? Like he's this man in my mind now that I couldn't conceptualize when he was living because I needed a father. So it's like, I think as kids, we only know our parents as our parents. And I don't think a lot of adults get to see their parents outside of the title that we give them, because you always need your mom, you always need your dad, right? So it's like I've been trying to, like with my relationship with my mother, like trying to be intentional about recognizing her as a woman even in those moments when I need her, right? Because your traumas never go away, right? The things that she's healing from that I have no experience with because I've only known her all of my life, don't just go away, right? Because healing is cyclical. It becomes something else, right? You heal it in one version and then it shows back up in a different way, and then it shows back up in a different way as we keep going. So I think what I picked up on with reading your book is that him passing did allow you to see him differently. It allowed you to see the man, right? And not just your dad. And I think that also comes
his passing, and also I think writing the book, because even when I started in the writing process, the child was still trying to write the story.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
I can see that.
Because it was a journey. As we started with you at the top of the book to when we got to the end of the book, it felt like there was realizations as you're going through, like, okay, this is my father, this is my mother, this is his family. Like it was very, I think that's the cool thing about reading memoirs, especially, is like you watch people grow as they're talking through their story versus like a polished, it is polished in a sense, right? Because obviously stuff was probably left on the cutting room floor. But I think when it comes to stories, especially memoirs, it's nice to see the progression of how someone's thinking, because we're also progressing with you and we're also learning with you versus coming with already pre thoughts that are already determined or already there right away, you know. So I think that was really cool to see as we went along with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I think in the style in which you wrote the book, it you do see the growth, like you do see the progression that, you know, you are at your heart just his baby, right? Like
Mhm.
you're just his kid. And that evolves into who you are today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's all
So
the
it's all a progression. So I guess tell us more about like actually like writing the book, like the whole process of that.
Yeah. Well, I started writing the book because, well, the whole story started, I guess, in 2010. I had a student, a white student, who said the N word in my classroom, and she was quoting she was quoting a line from the 1974 satirical comedy Blazing Saddles, which my father co-wrote. So it's like a haunting, right? So she conjures my dad in the classroom. I'm convinced that what she's trying to do in the moment was trying to like tell everybody that my dad was Richard Pryor. I don't know why anybody would do that in the middle of a history class, but that's what my brain was telling me. And so I kind of missed where she was actually going, which is to repeat this line, to connect to my lecture by repeating a line that had like two slurs in it, one for Chinese people and one the N word. And I just like I had this reckoning in that moment. Like I was like, whoa, this I'm having an outsized reaction to this moment, like right now, and I know that I am. And it made me become more intentional about my teaching. It made me start to delve more deeply into the history of the word, like what does it actually mean? And that's where I kept running into my father in the literature, the historical literature. And then it also made me look at my own story, and start to, and so I had those three threads, right? The history of the word, the history of my own life in relation to that word and my father, and then my relationship with my father and the word. So like all of those three threads, and oh, my classroom, sorry. And I knew the story was all three. And I cannot tell you how many people read my drafts in my book and told me, okay, here's a story about teaching in the history, and there's a story that's the memoir of your father. And these are two different stories. And so you have two books here. And I just knew it was one story. And it was really hard. And I have to say that, I did many, 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 many drafts. I wrote in a way that I'd never done before. And I hope that I am energized to do it again. I wrote like every day for 3 or 4 years, like actually.
Mm.
Like sometimes it would only be 20 minutes. But what I found was that if I wasn't sitting down and writing, I like lost the thread. Like I couldn't hold on to the what was building, and then I'd lose something kind of precious. I'd find it again, but it would be a while and I wouldn't know where. So about 3 years ago, and I say this in my acknowledgments, like I hit a wall with the naysayers, and I just couldn't do it. And that's when my best friend from high school, who's a producer, stepped in and also went to journalism school and started making helping me shape the book as a developmental editor. And it was really, I mean, because there are a couple of things. Really, the book starts in the classroom. And I'd heard from many colleagues here at Smith that you can't start a book in the classroom. People do not want to hear about the classroom. Don't start your story there. Like, so there were all these different like rules, I guess, like I think about it like dating in a way. Like people have, the rules are you can't do this, you can't say this. And then when you find the right person that you want to be with, you realize like all of that was like there was no rules to begin with. But like um but it was like there was so many rules that I felt like kind of hedged in around. And um finally, with this friend, I just said, I need somebody to believe in me in the book. Can you just pretend like you believe in me in this book? And I will take the feedback. I will listen to the feedback, but can you just believe in it? And she's like, I already do. So it worked
Mm.
out. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what's funny that you say rules is because last episode we had Shonda McManus and she wrote also a memoir about her brother and it's all letters and someone also told her gave her these rules and stipulations about writing and then like she just tossed that out and did what she wanted and then she got the book that she wanted. So I find
Right.
that funny that you did the same thing. You tossed out the rules and also I find it to me I actually enjoyed you starting in the classroom. I don't know
I
about you
was gonna
Shelby too.
say, I was gonna say, I'm thinking a bunch of different thoughts came to mind. So the classroom thing, immediately independent literature came to mind. There are a bunch of romances that I've read that start in a classroom that I've absolutely loved or that have scenes in a classroom that I'm like, why wouldn't we start here, right? Like I feel like it's such a vast playing ground for a bunch of different things. But I think the other thing that I'm hearing is I think as a society, especially when we get into like academia or in the land of nerds, as I like to call it, where we are like always thinking, always reading, always dealing with words, we only know how to deal in parameters sometimes. So whenever anything is outside of a box that we've already delegated safe or clear or whatever, everything gets spooky, you know? And I think some of the best things come from stepping outside of that box.
Right, right. And I know the rules are there for a reason, right? There's some of the rules are there for a reason. Um, and certainly like things like, showing up to the computer every day. Like that's a rule that made sense. And I did that. But it is really funny because you know your own you have this like drive sometimes, like you, especially as an artist, you have this drive. You're like, I see it, I see it, I see it. And I think about this even with my father because you know my favorite comedy of I think right now, I don't know everything of my father's deeply well. I'm familiar with all of it, but I'm becoming more and more familiar. But right now, Live in Concert, 1979, Chef's Kiss, perfect, beginning till end for me. And he was lauded. He put his life on the line. He said everything, he left it all out there on the stage. And it's generally like regarded by critics at the time and critics afterwards as like one of the greatest comedy of all. It set him, it cemented him as the most important comedian of his generation by far, maybe even of the 20th century. And then he has the fire, right? This incident, horrible. And he writes a film, totally puts himself on the line, telling his own story, takes this risk, and the movie is panned, right? Jojo Dancer, Your Life is Calling. And it just, I think about it so much because like, that's what art, I mean, there are a lot of artists out there who are like putting their hearts out there and people are like, you suck, but they are putting their self out there, right? They are and there is something like, there's this, I feel lucky that people are responding to my book, but it is, I can't really explain it, but you're like so like people are responding, but also people aren't. And people are saying, like, there's some like, oh, like in it, because you're open, you're flaying yourself open in this way. And it doesn't even it doesn't have to be memoir, right? Because it could be anything, like your opinion about, the Revolutionary War. It's like you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see. I think Jess and I both have like experience, because we both have book clubs and we're both like guiding people through literature every month, but also trying to help them navigate how they talk about what they're reading in a way that isn't so harsh in either direction, right? Like I think someone DM'd me recently and they were like, you said that misunderstanding and dislike feel the same if you can't identify your emotions. And I have had to sit with that. And I'm like, well, yeah, friend. I'm like, it feels the same way if you don't know how to identify it, right? And you're walking around telling people that you hated this book when really you don't understand it, right?
And I see that a lot within, like we talked about, when it comes to this past week, criticism, like critiquing books, is like, how do you properly talk about books without it sounding like you are coming or attacking, I guess, putting your own personal feelings into this critique of the book. And it's like, you have to step out of those feelings to really see like the full picture. Because I even said this about a book like Bloodfire, baby, we were talking about, this niche literature. The book is about a mother, a first-time mother. She's dealing with PTSD, and we're going through her thoughts throughout the book. At first, I was like, this is repetitive, wasn't getting it, this is not for me. But once I started to realize what the author is doing with this conversation, I had to step outside, because I'm obviously not a mother. I've only been a godmom or auntie of some sort. I don't understand these feelings, but I can understand that somebody else is experiencing this, right? This is their experience, not mine. And I can acknowledge that and still give props to, hey, the writing was good, the subject matter was good.
Right.
It's for somebody. It's not for me, but it's for somebody. And it can't be for me, right? But I think that comes a lot when people are talking about books, and your book isn't stark or isn't like crazy left field, but it's about somebody that people love and revere, and they can't fathom that maybe there is a little bit of criticism there, here and there, or there is a lot of love here and there, but it's, it's your father at the end of the day. It's like, who can tell you?
Like, I think something that your book is gonna make people have to sit with is that celebrities are human. They're human. They are beyond what they make us feel, and what they do for us personally, right? They are, we only see of them what we know, what we see, right? There is a whole slew of things going on beyond what they give us. And I think that's what people struggle with the most, because you're making people grapple with Richard Pryor, the man, right? Richard Pryor, the daddy that didn't show up for you sometimes, or that did offer you gems, right? Or that did do so on and so forth. That's totally different than the man that got up on stage and made us laugh. The man that has, that, oh, we watched that movie as a family millions of times, right? So it's like, I think sometimes people can't even separate, is it the artist that you love, or is it the memory that you're holding on to, right? Like, people can't even dictate between the two things. It's just sometimes Richard Pryor is just a holding spot for
that's so good. That is
all
so
of this
good.
other stuff, right? And you could say that about any artist. You could say that about Teddy Pendergrass. Like, my mom will hear Teddy Pendergrass and she is immediately again a child sitting by her bedroom door listening to my grandmother and my grandfather dancing together and singing in the living room when she was supposed to be asleep, right? Like, every time she can hear, she'd be like, oh, that was Grandma and Pop-Pops, like that was their jam, right? So it's like, is it the artists themselves, or is it the memory that they bring up for you? Valid either way, but people can't even
decipher that.
They can't decipher between that. So it's like, when they talk about things, I think I just want people to know that, like, one, no matter what kind of book you're reading, this was someone's brainchild, right? This was a thought that they were able to put down into a format that makes sense enough for us to understand their feelings, their thought processes, so on and so forth. And that is amazing within itself, because how many of us can actually do that? But then also, it's somebody's art. Like, what if somebody came in your house and was like, baby, this is ugly?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
oh, terrible and bad. Like, this is,
yeah.
oh, terrible. Why would you
And
do
you,
this?
and you know,
You'd be devastated.
celebrity culture has ingrained in us that we can tear people down and just keep it
Yes.
moving.
And keep it moving.
And it's like, this is, or they're possessive over, this is my girl. This is my, I mean, me and Shelby go back for Beyonce, right? We
Yeah, I was
love
gonna
us
say
a
she's like the only
Beyonce.
one that I warn people. Beyonce is the only celebrity that I am irrational about. It's been since I was a kid. I remember seeing the Deja Vu music video, and it, like, something clicked in my brain, and I was like, yeah, yes,
Immediately,
yes,
or even
yes.
if people critique Toni Morrison, we be like,
Right.
you know,
I don't want to hear it. I think you are the issue. It's not Toni. It's you. And I will do whatever I can to give you resources. I'll read it to you out loud if I have to. I will give you other books to read or whatever. But it's not Toni. It was never
it's not.
Toni.
It was never. But you
It was
know,
never her.
we all have our qualms, but sometimes it goes too far. Where, especially nowadays, because we are so parasocial with certain things, and not even like in. Your father wasn't even he wasn't even in the social media age. So
Right. I couldn't
imagine
imagine.
if he was now with like Eddie Murphy and who else? I can't think of it. But you know, like
Martin
who is
Lawrence.
out? Martin Lawrence, like who is out now? Imagine if he was still around. I don't
Dave
know. Like if it
Chappelle.
would just, yeah, it would just, yeah. Dave Chappelle is a great example. Like it would just not be as receptive,
Yeah.
to certain things. It's very interesting.
I would
It's
have
very
loved to
interesting.
see Richard Pryor like critiquing today's comedy. Like, I think he would have
Oh,
gotten a
that'd be
kick out
interesting.
of, like, TikTok skits. Like, they're just
Mm-hmm.
silly. And I
Mm-hmm.
think at your father's core, he was just silly.
He's really silly. He's really silly. His point of view is really silly. But I want to go back to this idea that you were saying before about the memory. Like, it's not even necessarily the artist, but it's the memory that they create
Yeah.
for people. Because I cannot tell you how many people, like this Teddy Pendergrass thing that you just spoke about, with your grandparents. Like, for me, people are like, I remember, and I've been hearing this, I mean, probably since I was at least in college, but maybe before, that people are like, oh, I snuck out of my bedroom while my parents were listening. I had my first glass of wine. My brother came home from Vietnam, and I was listening to you. I mean, like, people associate these moments with my father is tied into these personal histories of people. That's what makes, I mean, that's what makes it so, I think, profound, is not just that he was funny on stage, but the way that, having seen him, having engaged with him, having listened to him, like creates this little like pocket of memory that people can keep tapping into. Like, I'm 60. Oh, well, I'm really 59. Don't say 60, but I'm 59 years old, and I will tell you, like, honestly, there aren't that many memories that you hold on to. Like, when you get to a certain age, like, a lot of times people are like, remember that time when we blah 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 blah, and you're like, no, like, I just don't. But people remember these memories with my dad, and that just, I feel like that's been the joy of publishing this book, is because so many people, and doing my Instagram, I think that Instagram has allowed for that, like, conversation with people. so many people are like, I saw your father here. Your father did this for me. One time I didn't, I just, I don't know. It feels like that he left all these people with these memories. It's really
Do you think
powerful.
that's helped you with your grieving? Like, I know a big part of this book is the conversation in race, right? And how growing up with a father that was doing all of these very profound things with his comedy, and how that was confusing for you.
And messy
Um,
things with his life.
right, and messy things with his life. Do
Hmm.
you think that writing the book and having access to all of everybody's memories, has that helped you grieve him a little differently?
100%. Because, I mean, there was so much grief for me at the end of his life. I can still feel the day he died. I mean, I am right there. And it was so devastating because I was like, oh, wow, this is it. We done. Like, that's like, this idea that by this random white woman in my classroom who dropped this word in this way actually set me on a journey that or my dad used her, haunted her, possessed her to do, because it does feel like a haunting. I mean, it feels like it was always meant to be.
Mhm.
That's the nutty thing to me about the story, is like, how many of all the things she could have quoted in
How
my
did she
class.
land here?
Yeah, how
Mhm.
did she land
How did she
here?
land here?
Yeah.
Right. But sends me on this journey that gets me to be more engaged with my father, certainly as a public figure, but even as a private person, than I had been for years and years and years and years. Like, it's
I
just
love
like,
that.
and part of my story, as you both know, because you've read the book, is that I never told people that my father was Richard Pryor. I didn't
Hmm.
talk about that not because I was ashamed of him, but because I didn't want you stepping on my toes. That was like I was protecting myself, not realizing that many people were about to like, like flower me, regale me with all these great stories. Like, I was just still protecting myself from, the one or two people or more who said things like, is he still doing drugs? Like those kinds of things to a child, right? And so I was like kind of protecting myself and putting armor up, and missed out on the joy of getting to have this really special thing that somehow happened to me in the universe, which was that my father was a genius that everybody loved. And how cool is that? And I was missing out on reaping the benefits. I mean, of course I had benefits, but
Right. I
not
get
the
what you
joy
mean.
of other people's celebration of him.
That
Yeah.
was something else that I wanted to say when you talk about, like the haunting of this girl and how they, everyone that was reading your book said that you had separate books. I don't think enough people realize how connected everything is when we are living life. I don't think people want to accept it because it can feel like a haunting, like you said, or it can be creepy, or it can cause people to kind of question their existence and the religion that they grew up with and like all of this other stuff. But I've always seen life like that. Like, I've always been able to pick up on the little different patterns and how little things connect here and there to get you somewhere else. That was something else that I loved about this book, that you could see the pieces, right? Even from kind of a spoiler alert, where you talk about the instance where your mom called you in the N-word, right? Like, looking back at that from my standpoint, I was like, oh, that's where this started, right? Like, this is gonna come up again in your life because this right here, this happened, right? And why does this hurt so bad? Not only because it was your mother, that's one side to it, right? But there's all of this other stuff that you talk about that is connected to this,
Yep.
that you as a kid, at I forget what age you are then, but like, you at that age, you couldn't process all of that then, right? So it's like, I think when it's easier as you get older to kind of look back at your life and to see the patterns, but not everybody is able to recognize and accept that. So that's why they were seeing two separate books, because you was asking the people to use their big brain to see the full picture. Everybody don't want to do that sometimes.
You know what? It's also a thing of like, it's a memoir, and people are not trying to look deeper into things versus with
Yeah,
probably like
that's true.
fiction. And it's interesting because we say fiction is where the deep stuff is, but a lot of people don't want to read it. But even with nonfiction, people are very surface level. They're just like, it's a memoir, give it to me straight, don't look too deep into it. Versus me and Shelby are like, yeah, this is where it all started, or like not
Yeah,
even just
I
me,
want to
but
know
like,
all the stuff. I would
or
like
the niche
tell
group of
me,
people. Yeah.
right? Like tell me what made your granny a hoe. Like I want to know all the things.
All the like, give me the
I want to
layers so
know
we can
all
get to
of it.
you.
Right, so we
Yeah.
could get to you. So I could be like, oh, friend, here's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what we have to
Exactly.
do.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
I also
Exactly.
think the reason Jess and I are like that, I think there are a few different books that we probably both can name off, but the one that comes to mind the most is Parish by LaToya Watkins. The way that book is written is from the perspective
Mm-hmm.
of the matriarch, where we get her trauma and how her trauma made her inflict certain traumas onto her children and her grandchildren. But we get her perspective of like she was trying to do what she understood as what was best. And
Mm-hmm.
it like did something to my brain. I was like, "Oh, I get it now." I get it now. I need to see the full picture. I need to know all of the things, because if I know all of the things, then I can understand why maybe they thought this decision was the best one to make. Right? And it doesn't negate the terrible things that they did, but it allows us to stop the cycles, right? Because that's what everybody's talking about. Oh, we have to learn the history so that we can stop it from happening, but nobody wants to read the history deeply. Oh, we have to stop the what's the new term, the generational curses, but nobody wants to
Yeah.
learn about the generations on a deep level to understand what the said curses are.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I,
Yeah.
on the other hand, I
Yeah.
want to know everybody's business. Tell me everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you might be a historian, because that's historians are just nosy and we want to know everything. That's like
Tell me all the stuff. I get it from my mother. My mother has all the family pictures. My mother has all the stuff, and she's the one that has all the like family knowledge. Like my mom is the one, like if we're at a funeral or something, my mom will be like, okay, that person over there, that's our cousin because their daddy and their mama was this, that's how they're related to us. And then that one over there, that's not really our cousin, but we call him our cousin because such and such. Like my mom is that person. So I get it kind of honest, because I'm like, well,
Mm-hmm.
who are all these people and why?
Yep. Yep.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
I love
but
that.
yeah, nobody wants
Yeah.
to think deeply. So we start your book in the classroom. Has your book come up in any of your classes now?
Well, okay. So the book came out in June and the semester ended in May. So
Okay.
I haven't had a chance
Oh yeah.
to
Oh
actually
yeah.
teach it or in that way, but I would say so I started teaching a course called The History of the N-Word in 2018. I've taught it 4 times. I think the fourth time was a disaster, so I had to put it on hiatus for a minute. But but it started out beautifully, and from that moment forward, my students were helping me to write this book. So Smith students, by the way, are brilliant and really magical and bring it in the classroom, and they will go, they're creative thinkers. They're not boxed in, so they'll go on any kind of intellectual journey you're willing to take them on. And so while I haven't taught the book in my classes, the students have read parts of it, they've talked about parts of it, they've helped me pick out the cover, I mean, like they've been
I
involved
love that.
every single
Mm-hmm.
semester. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Nice.
I think that speaks to you as a teacher, as a professor, right? That they feel safe enough to do that. So I love
Yeah.
that.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, this book, I think of it, I mean, I dedicate the book to my father, but I think of it a lot as a love letter to my students because
Most
just, yeah, they just are, they allowed this project to be intellectually important. And one of the people who interviewed me, which was you were there at Liz's book bar, Shelby, when I was in conversation with Sullivan Summer, and Sullivan has a podcast, Additions to the Archive, and we've become friends since the book came out. Generally, a very brilliant woman, um, but said something to me that was so great. So the marketing of the book is like part high, part memoir, part historical exploration of the N-word is sort of, the kind of framing of the book. And Sullivan said, woohoo, Sullivan said, you know, saying that it's part history and saying that it's part memoir is almost similar to saying you're part black and you're part white. Like you're actually like, how do you pull out the black part? How do you pull out and separate the Jewish part? Like you're all one thing.
Yeah.
And the history, I mean, the history of race and racism in the United States is what shapes any black person, period. Like how do you extract that from, so how do you think about it as separate? And that just blew my mind. I was like, wow, because it really helped me to understand how those historical interludes aren't just there on their, on their face because they happen to do with the N-word, but they're shaping the memoir as well because they are part of my story, not just part of
Right.
America's story, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's totally valid. That's very valid.
And that's the joys of reading, right? Because the things that you pick up from a book are not always going to be the same things that somebody else does. And that added perspective,
Yeah.
you know?
I
Yeah,
love that.
definitely.
I had that when I saw Get Out, like the movie Get Out. When the first time I saw that movie, like I could have been in conversation about that movie for like weeks and never run out of things to say because there were so many things that I wondered if Jordan Peele put that in there on purpose or what the interpretation of that was. And I, on my TikTok feed, for some reason, I don't know why this is happening right now, because you know how your algorithm, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, do I like to saute food? Because single thing is like on, like, and
That's so real.
but but like right now everything is about this movie Obsession, which is too scary for me to actually see. But I'm
yes.
very interested in the interpretations. Like I love the conversation that's happening around it about how this character is not like it's not a good guy, like this is a bad guy. The bad guy is the protagonist in the movie, and how people are just sort of unraveling that story. And I mean, I hope that people my hope is that people will have some kind of conversation like that about think about whether or not I was thinking through this for that reason or that reason. And I mean, I think that's like the greatest honor. Like I'd be so happy if even a few people were doing that with my book.
I think they
Yeah.
are. I've had a couple of people reach out and say that they were reading it because they saw me post about it, especially in conversation with Sky Full of Elephants, because
Oh, right,
that's a
right.
book that is very, very polarizing. One of those that I just think people just don't understand it. Um,
I
I
haven't read
put
it.
it.
Should I read that book?
I think you
Yeah.
should. I would love
I would love to
to
hear your
like.
perspective.
We could have a group call once you're done reading it because I
Mm-hmm.
would love
Okay.
to listen to you talk about it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as a person that is white and black, right? Like I said to Jess the other day, I was like, you put into perspective things about the character Sydney. I understood Sydney. Like I empathized with Sydney already. right? Because of my understanding of the world, because of what I know of world history, because of the person that I am. But you talked about things that made me realize that the things that I thought I was empathizing with Sydney weren't even like grazing the surface, right? And I think the people that don't like Sydney, which Sydney is insufferable, right? But Sydney is angry for valid reasons. Whether we want to accept it or not, she's angry for valid reasons. And that can present itself for a young, she's a teenager, right? What
Something like
yeah, like
that.
what teenage girl isn't insufferable? There's a lot going on
Right.
for me at 33. So like she's a girl. We go through a lot. But I don't know, there are just things that you were able to make me think about
Yeah.
that
I
I
was
was
like,
like, oh,
yeah.
I wasn't really getting it.
Yeah.
I wasn't like I was.
Yeah.
I think I have a very great understanding of that book. And I think the purpose of Sky Full of Elephants is a journey to loving your blackness, right? And that journey looks different for all of us, whether you are a fully Black person that is learning to love yourself because you were raised in America, right? Or if you are a person that was not raised by your Black family and all you know is your white family. And they may not have been overtly racist to you, right? But you can see the patterns. You can see that they lock the doors when the Black man walks down the street. You can see the things that they choose to do and not to do, or when your hair is curly, they don't compliment you versus when your hair is straight. Like those things, right? Sydney could see those things.
She can.
So it's
Well,
like
I got it. I'm like ordering this book today.
Yeah, you
it's
definitely. It's
Sibo
definitely
Campbell
a
is
book. Yeah,
he's
it's a good one. Yeah, he's him.
he is. For that to be his debut, I was very blown away.
Yeah,
I was like, this is the first one. This is what we're getting like right away. What's next gonna be?
yeah.
And his next
It
book
was
is
a
supposed
good
to be
one.
a horror, so I'm kind of scared. But
You know what book also comes up? Not necessarily exactly the same pathway, but The Color of Water by James McBride as well. It's a very interesting conversation because he's also Jewish and Black, and I thought it was very like seeing the different perspectives, but maybe sometimes similar perspectives that was interesting as well while reading your book.
yeah, someone brought that up to me as well because his mom was very, very. She stood 10 toes down about protecting her kids. Like she was behind it. So I think his approach or his book was more his experience was more about like, well, why is my mom not Black?
Yeah.
Right? Because she made sure her children understood who they were the best that she could.
Yeah. There's a book called Real Americans by Julie Hames. It's also a memoir. And the book was so hard for me to read. She's exactly my age. Her mother's white, her father's Black, but he was like a professor at University of Wisconsin or something. And they were so intentional. And they understood that understood that they were doing something that was going to have impact for their child, right? They really understood that, and they were very intentional. I couldn't finish the book. It's a wonderful book, but it was so painful for me to read it, knowing how haphazardly my parents, and again, like adult people who did the very best they could, like they were human beings, right? Like totally, like I'm not even blaming them, but it's like just the experience was so, I was like, oh, it could have been like that.
Right.
It's hard.
I totally understand that. I think we all go through that in some ways when you kind of look at how other people are raised or the things that are like not normal in other households.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I didn't know that was. I
Right,
didn't
no,
know that was
exactly.
a.
Right. Wait, you can do it that way? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. No, nobody told me that.
Yes.
There's no, manual for life.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so what do you want your readers to take away from your book?
I mean, I guess I love this question. There are a few things. One is like, I want people to be thinking about, so when I talk about the N word, which I do, of course, throughout the whole book, it's really a stand-in for racism. I mean, I mean, it's like, I'm not talking just about a word. I'm talking about an ideology that's like deep in American culture at the foundation. So I want people to be thinking about the book as a jumping off point to have that conversation and to realize that the N word and the racism it represents isn't just part of this national trauma from the United States, but it's like personal. It's personal. We have these unique experiences with it as humans, not just Black people, but Black people probably can articulate those experiences more easily, because I'm sure there's a lot of, and I hear from a lot of white people like, I called somebody this when I was a kid. I stood by and did nothing. I remember when somebody was, like you were there when you witnessed the racism around this. And I wanted people to think about the book as a jumping off point for that conversation. I want Richard Pryor fans to be able to get access to a whole part of him that they maybe didn't understand before. And then I think about like, we were talking about this earlier, but one of the things that's super powerful for me in my experience is the idea that like you and I talked about this before, Shelby, but like it doesn't have to end when the person is no longer there, right? That's not the end of the story. And that to me was like, you could knock me over with a feather because I just was 100% sure that my dad and it was done. And getting to be able to have this whole new life, I don't even know where it's going to take me or what it's going to mean or what it's going to mean for my children and how they can feel closer to their grandfather that
Right.
died when they were super young. Like that they didn't. And by time my children met my father, he was so in the throes of his multiple sclerosis. I mean, they never got to know the virile, like handsome, charismatic guy that I grew up, witnessing, and so giving my kids another chance to connect with them. And I feel like it's a message to anyone who feels like the end is the end. It doesn't have to be the end.
I think that's evident in the beginning of the book when you talk about his funeral and you said that you could hear him like
Mm-hmm.
making jokes, right? Like
Yeah.
I think that was again if we talk about the patterns and we talk about how cyclical things are, I think that might have been where it started for you even if you didn't recognize that like there was a possibility for you to still connect with him. And that may have been his way of saying like I'm here.
Right.
Right? Though, whenever you probably make a sick joke in your head, like that's probably your dad. you know, probably something he'll say. Or like there are
Right.
times when my grandmother, I can like smell her sometimes. And it's always my grandmother was a trickster. She was kind of the person that'll like wait until you was in the shower and pour like cold water on you or something like that. Like that was her thing. She loved to play those kinds of games. And like I always smell her when I'm like about to drop something or like I'm being clumsy because I'm like, she probably somewhere laughing at me. Like that's funny to her. So I think people can use that. People can definitely use that. You want to do praise for it, Jess?
Yeah. So this segment, Praise For, we have either authors that are on or us. We talk about authors that we want to see more recognition for, either past, present, whatever the case may be, or they're coming out soon. So do you have anybody that you want to shout out? A book, author, whoever? Yeah.
Well, can it be an academic book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would want people to be interested in my colleague Sam Ng, NG, who has I feel like I want to look up the title of the book. Hold on one second.
Look, Jess, we might be able to use this for her kid.
Probably could.
Yeah, here we go. Assemblies of Sorrow, Performance of Black Endangerment in the Jim Crow Era. And he just does something so brilliant. This is my colleague here at Smith, and he does something so brilliant. He just like, um, he he looks at the way Black people have mourned these really powerful moments in our history. Like one big one is Emmett Till's murder, and he's able to like analyze and see the activism. And the book just came out in June. I've heard him talk about the work. I'm sitting down to read it because we're going to be in conversation about it in the fall. And I think people should think about looking at the Assemblies of Sorrow.
Well, I've
Cool.
definitely seen this cover around.
Yeah. I've definitely
So I
seen
will be
it.
adding this to my list.
Okay, great.
And yeah,
Thank
this
you for
sounds
that.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, her kid is Elizabeth, we're doing a reading challenge for a year called the hardest reading challenge you'll ever do. And one of the prompts is called Choose Your Curriculum. So when you said an academic book, my ears perked up because I know that neither one of us have chosen a curriculum.
Not at all.
So what does it
Not
mean?
at
What does it
all.
mean? What does it mean? Choose a curriculum. What does that mean?
So we have to choose like a book that's like academic level, like of a subject matter that we would study in school. And then I believe the rest of the prompt says read multiple books on that topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So pick academic book and then go from there
Go
to
from
kind of
there.
do a deeper dive of that subject matter. But I haven't picked what I really want to, I don't know what I want to do. I feel like because I read so much historical fiction, it would be typical of me to pick race. It would, because it's something I talk about all the time. So I kind of want to pick something different, but that's also something that's something that I'm interested in. I don't want to read about math.
You know, can I do another one? I don't know why. It's just sitting on my desk right now. This book, I really love this book. I don't know. It's not super new, but it's a history of I Saw Death Coming, a history of terror and survival in the war against Reconstruction. And
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one.
what I love about this book, and I've taught it a couple of times, is that she doesn't use any euphemisms when she like, so she talks about like like the labor camps, and she doesn't say plantations. She calls things violence. She doesn't talk about it discipline and punish, like terrorism. Like she just says it what it is. And I found that so refreshing. It like kind of made my brain reimagine, like it just helped me to shake loose of any quaintness that America tried to lay on me about about the Jim Crow Reconstruction era.
Yeah.
So
I wonder how history is told. I wonder how that impacts how we talk about ourselves and our own pain, especially as Black women, how we mask, how we don't outright say like exactly what has happened to us, or how in Black communities a lot of like what happens in our house stay in our house.
Yes.
I wonder how we could like trace that back to each other via language.
Yes, totally. I love it. So anyway,
thank you. And then last but certainly not least, we do a game. Jess will lead us in this or that, where you can just pick one, whichever one comes to the top of your head, and then we'll sometimes we ask questions. Sometimes we ask why.
Yeah. Okay, so first is, would you rather be stuck in your favorite fantasy world or your favorite time period?
Time period.
Okay. Have unlimited conversations with the character you wrote, or unlimited conversations with your favorite author?
A character.
Zora Neale Hurston or Toni Morrison?
Oh. And it's like, does everybody do that on that one? What? What? No.
No,
Really is a hard choice. It's
it
not
is.
No.
easy.
It is.
Because every time she asks someone, I think about like, well, what would I say? And I feel like every time she asks, it depends on the week.
I mean, I don't
No, literally.
know. I don't
Like
know. I
some
mean,
weeks I feel very rooted in Zora Neale Hurston, and I feel like she would be proud of me as a person.
Hmm.
And then other times, like something in my brain switches, and I'm like, yes, Toni Morrison all the way.
I don't know. I'm not, I'm taking the fifth on that one. I don't know. It's not even taking the fifth. I literally cannot answer that question.
Okay, I get
That's like a,
it.
what
It's
is
a
it?
hard.
What is it like a Sophie's Choice? I feel like,
That's hilarious. Handwritten draft or digital draft?
this just changed on this book, but I'm going to say digital.
Okay. Would you rather reread your least favorite book every month or never write again?
Reread my least favorite book.
What's your least favorite book?
Probably some stupid romance book that I just read. Some bad fan fiction. Can I count that?
Every time that question comes up, I think about what would be my least favorite book. And there aren't many books that I have like a yeah, like I don't have harsh reactions that often to books, but there is a book um called Three Women that I thought was terrible and bad, but only because I
Terrible
felt like
and
what
bad.
terrible and bad, but only because I felt like what they marketed it as was not at all what the book was about. And it's a nonfiction that's supposed to be about like women's sexuality, but I felt like it was more about um women being abused under the guise of sexuality. And I'm like, that's not women shouldn't have to take their abuse and label that as their own sexuality. So I feel like my harsh opinions were valid, but that's the only book, and I feel like I'm not reading that every month.
I'm
I'm not
not.
I'm
No, but that's actually like what I was thinking about, something really similar, because after I thought about it, it's probably like these books, like I love reading thrillers too. And so many of them start with like these naked, like tore up women's bodies. Like why? Like, I
right.
get it. She's dead. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll accept. This is a book about a woman who was murdered. Like, that's fine. Like, okay, fair. But like, why does it have to? Why do we have to see her body like this? Like, ugh. So,
And then when it's written by a man,
yeah,
it always makes me feel like, what's in your basement?
yeah,
No, what's in your basement?
exactly. No, exactly, exactly. It,
Like, have we checked his attic? Is people up there? Like something is not right.
right. No, 100%. That's good.
Something
Okay.
is not right. But Elizabeth, where can everybody find you online?
Instagram at Pryor Histories.
Perfect.
Also on TikTok. Same on
Oh yeah, on TikTok.
TikTok.
Okay. We'll have both linked in the description. Elizabeth, it was lovely having you. Um, well, last random question. Do you plan on writing anything else, whether that is nonfiction or fiction?
I will be doing more history. I'm working on a Black woman from the early 19th century who was married to a famous abolitionist. And, I'm just starting that work. But for me, like I've been thinking about this a lot right now, which is that I want to make myself, even though I'm doing all this kind of stuff for this book, I kind of want to make myself sit down and just write, like enjoy writing. Yeah.
That. Well, again, it was lovely having you. Jess and I were super, super excited about this. Um, And yeah, everybody else, if you would like to reach out to us, you can email us at theleagueofreaderspod@gmail.com. I remembered it this week. Last week, I stumbled upon our email. And at the League of Readers on Instagram and Threads. And we will see you next week. Bye, guys.